Tom Caker with Hawkeye Report, and welcome. I wanted to ask you about how you're going to build this team. What did you learn last year from having to build from scratch, the lessons of portaling and such these days, and what do you learn positively and negatively from that experience?
Positively first, tough kids win, connected groups win, groups that serve each other win, kids that work with a level of humility win, and that hasn't changed. So with the portal, you have to make sure you can identify those intangible talents very early, because the physical gifts are pretty easy to identify. But as you see throughout the portal, some of the teams that may spend the most money or on paper may have the most talent don't necessarily win because they're not a connected group. So for us, what I've learned from Drake is that don't overthink just because somebody's getting a lot of money here that he's a better fit for what you do. And so we continue to trust our own eyes at Drake. Took people that we thought could really help build and sustain a culture so that we can continue success in the future. Here at Iowa, same concept. I think it's obviously at a higher level. You do have to take certain transfers, but again, that goes with Hawkeyes making sure that we try to retain some of the kids that are wanting to go into the portal right now and do it quickly. And again, so I've said it takes everybody to get those kids back. Like that's what it's going to take, and that's what we want. Because they're tough kids and they're Iowa, and they'll be great for us. But it's the same thing that I learned at Northwest Missouri State. You can't complicate winning. Like it is what it is. It's the same thing. Kids that serve each other and love each other.
Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Ben, I wanted to ask you about how Steve Tapmeyer shaped you as a coach and your coaching philosophy and what you took away from him when you played for him at Northwest Missouri State, and maybe what you learned about leadership from Mel Churchman when you worked under him. He was the athletic director and football coach at Northwest Missouri State. Yeah,
a lot of people don't know those names here, but those are D2 legends right there. Coach Tapmeyer, I played for him. It was funny. I played for a guy at Nyack, and I should have mentioned his name. He's one of the only players to ever play in a Final Four with two different teams. Does anybody know the answer to that? Yep, Special K, Steve Krafts. So I played for him at junior college. Awesome coach. Went to Northwest Missouri State. This is, answer your question, Steve Tapmeyer. And I walked into, I always was like second and third place my whole career. Couldn't get to first. And I'm like, man, I'm close. I just couldn't get over that hump. I walked into one of their weight sessions and conditioning sessions, and I'm looking around and I'm like, this is first place. This is what it feels like. And he taught me the shocking difference between first and second. And second to 10th, it's right there. But first place cultures and first place people are way up here. And he taught me the culture, he taught me how to be ready every single day. And from an X's and O's standpoint, defensively, he taught me that. And he remains a mentor as well. And, Mel Churchman, he won a lot of national titles in football. And from a leadership perspective, again, short story, but I remember one day he came in and said, man, I'm really having trouble with this, and I had a lot of anxiety about it. And the young coach, he goes, yeah, I don't really worry about it. I said, I'm not really worried about it. Are you crazy? And he said, hey, let me tell you something, man. We are both wired different. It doesn't make you any better or worse than me. And so it was kind of profound advice that, hey, the way you do things is the way you need to continue to do things. Just because I'm this way doesn't mean you should be that way. And so both of them have had a big impact on my career.
Hey Ben, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. First of all, congrats. Secondly, regarding the way you guys played this year, I know it's been different with all of your teams regarding how you approach tempo and such like that. But what I'm curious about is how you get players to buy in to playing good defense, but also not high tempo. I mean, a lot of teams like to emphasize tempo maybe as opposed to efficiency, like I know it's important for you.
Yeah, so efficiency is number one. I think from an offensive perspective, you want to be efficient. Why do you want to be efficient? Because you can set your defense. So if I put the ball in the basket more times and you have to take it out of bounds, I can set my defense. If I take a good shot and get you in rotation, I can get an offensive rebound. So shot selection and the ability to get quality shots equals efficiency, which allows your defense to set, which allows you to play good defense. Why this year, we didn't have the shooting that our teams at Northwest Missouri State had. So for instance, some of those teams would have 5 guys on the floor at a time that were 40+%, and 1 or 2 that could shoot 50% from 3. And so from an efficiency perspective, we were always top 5 in the country at all levels consistently. Do we want to play slow? Slow to me is not, it's low possession games would be better because it's popping, it's moving. We just didn't have enough shooting to get a good shot that quick. But I tell you what we did win, I would say the greatest plaque that NCAA used to send you these statistics plaques, right? So they used to send you like effective field goal percentage, fewest turnovers, and these big plaques. And one year I got the greatest plaque of all. And it was a plaque of led the NCAA in wins. And that's what I always felt like you should coach your team to is trying to win. But from an offensive perspective, yeah, I would prefer to play faster. I would say probably middle of the pack is usually where our teams would sit. But we're going to make sure that we play the best way that our personnel has success, and that's just what it was this year. But we'll always play defense.
Hi, Ben. Michael Loss, Cedar Rapids Gazette. I read, and if I'm wrong, just shoot me down right away, but I read that you were impressed by the art of war and that you're a big believer in imposing your will. If that's so, could you expound on that?
Ooh, that's a deep question. It is. Impose your will is every program that we've had is our motto. So I think our first or second year at Northwest, I had these huge packets that actually was stolen from a team in the Big Ten, I won't name names, from their football program. And I thought, man, this is like all this cool stuff. And I kind of realized about 2 seasons in that they weren't paying attention to any of it because there's just too much information. So I'm like, what's my favorite, like what can permeate the whole program? So we just put one sheet in their little binders and it was impose your will. And so our intention is to impose your will on everything that we do. So defensively, we want to tell you what to do. Offensively, we're trying to tell the defense what to do. And so more importantly though, imposing your will also trends towards like an official's call. So if I get upset with an official making a bad call, right, that call is imposing its will on me. But if I continue to play and move on to the next play, now I'm imposing my will on that call and just continuing to that next play. And so we try to have it permeate our whole program. Everything that's just an attack mentality creates that level of urgency that we need. And in the weight room, impose your will on those weights. In conditioning, impose your will in that. And that's us, kind of that, I don't know if it's not bully mentality because we say bullies, but that's impose your will. The short version.
Coach, Corey Rao from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Congratulations on the hire. I want to ask you about scheduling. So obviously first time at a high major program. What is your approach to non-conference scheduling, November tournaments, and then having coached at Drake for a year, is there any interest in resuming the UNI Drake rivalries?
Good question. I would say scheduling wise, you want to put yourself in the best position, one, to have your team be at their best in March. So if you need that specific team, if they need to play a top tier team, then you schedule that. If you need to play a bunch of teams that are not quite as good to build confidence, then you do that. So you schedule with that in mind first. The second part of that is you need to schedule to make the NCAA tournament. And so obviously there's the net rankings and there's a lot of mathematics that go into that. And so obviously your quad fours is you beat a bunch of quad fours by a lot of points. Going on the road versus a quad 3 or quad 2 doesn't make a lot of sense, just from an analytics standpoint to be able to make that NCAA tournament. Specific to Drake or UNI, good question. I don't know on that. It probably depends on if that allows us to make the NCAA tournament better. Now, there are some unique situations that you will play just because it's fun for the fans, and that might be number 3 as well. I'm not afraid of those either.
Ben, Jeff DeBroff, KCC.